Right, hello there, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good whatever it is, wherever you happen to be. My name is Paul, I'm also called Knick-Knack, I'm the brains behind Knick-Knack's Daily Teaser, which is a set of fun brain teaser quizzes that go out every day on both YouTube, on my channel at Mr. Cuddy2977, and on my blog, Knick-Knack's Old Peculiar. I also talk about TV shows I've watched, and I've got a couple lined up I want to see over the next few weeks. And frankly, as it's a Friday night, I also had something of a quandary last night, so I ended up doing something I usually still do, which is catch a movie. If you saw the introduction video for this particular review, you're probably very aware that I hadn't made up my mind about whether to watch a TV show or a film or what to watch. I eventually made my mind up and sat in with the 2021 version and Steven Spielberg directed
West Side Story.
West Side Story, the recent 2021 version, was made in 2021 and directed by Steven Spielberg. It opens in 1957 as a camera flies over the ruined San Juan Hills area of New York City. The region is a mix of seedy slums and knocked down ruins that are being knocked down and demolished to make way for upscale apartment blocks. Once the camera stops its flights over the rubble-strewn area, we focus on half a dozen members of the Polish-American Jets gang. Led by Riff, Mike Feist, the gang are determined to continue their turf war with the Puerto Rican Sharks by vandalizing a mural the Sharks have placed in the middle of their territory. The ensuing fight between the Jets and the Bernardo David Alvarez-led Sharks is broken up by Lieutenant Schrank, Corey Stoll, and Officer Krupke, Brian Darcy James. As Schrank puts it when he sees the trouble that's been caused, if any of you lot helps me out, you might spoil your chance to murder each other over control of this earthly paradise. Deep breath. It's only once the police officers have gone and the fight broken up, we see that Riff has gone to meet an old friend and the Jets co-founder, Tony, Ansel Elgort. Riff needs Tony's help at the up-and-coming dance, as it's the one chance the leader of the Jets will get to have a peaceful meeting with the leader of the Sharks and arrange a rumble. A fight, in other words, one that will determine which of the two gangs have control over the area permanently. Tony is reluctant. He's on parole and he's staying out late at the dance could get him in trouble, but Riff proves persuasive. Meanwhile, Bernardo's sister Maria, Rachel Zegler, is at home trying out dresses for a night out at a nearby dance. She's not happy about her limited choice of either frocks or potential partners. Bernardo and his girlfriend Anita, Ariana DeBose, are keen for her to be married off to their friend Chino, Josh Andres Rivera, something the independent Maria really doesn't like the idea of. Little does she know that as she and Chino and Bernardo and Anita head for the dance, that she is going to meet the man of her dreams, and that things after that are rapidly going to go downhill. Now, especially given I've seen the original 1961 version of West Side Story.
It's 21:15.
Thank you, Katie. Given that, what did I make of this version of the film? And what details did I notice? What did I see? What did I find? What did I think? Details are probably something to discuss. The dance at the gym, the sort of key turning point in the film. That dance at the gym highlights one thing I noticed from the minute I saw the trailers way back in the day. I'm not particularly familiar with US street gangs, thankfully. I know they're out there, I know they're thankfully a long way away in the States, and living in the UK, they are not something I have to worry about if I'm shopping in Sainsbury's or going down round the block for a walk. You're not going to be hideously stabbed, shot or what have you by a bunch of raving gangsters, much as some of the kids round here would like to. I am very aware that two of the biggest federations of gangs are the Bloods and their ancient rivals, the Crips. Federation, or probably confederacy, seems an appropriate choice of words. Both seem to be collections of gangs that work together as needed and are opponents of the others. At any rate, both groups are a collection of gangs rather than a pair of monolithic organisations. The only other thing I know about both is that both groups are known for wearing distinct gang colours, the Bloods in various versions of red, the Crips in various versions of blue. It's distinct enough that apparently under US law, committing a crime whilst in gang colours gets you extra time on your prison sentence and gets you warning about wearing gang colours in prison from prison guards. You are literally told, don't. The reason I mention that is that one of the first things I noticed in the trailers was that the sharks are wearing lots of reds, browns, and mustard yellow, and bright yellow in the case of the women. They're wearing lots of warm coloured t-shirts and tops. In the case of Bernardo, to give you an example, he spends a lot of time wearing a blue shirt with a very distinct red collar and button section down the front. The Jets, by contrast, are in a lot of shades of blues and greys and blue greys and blue black and stark white. Both gangs are in effectively Blood and Crips colours, in other words. That's something very noticeable at the dance, at the gym. They've all turned out in suited and booted in various shades of reds for the Sharks and blue for the Jets. When I noticed this, I was tempted to say, I don't know if that's deliberate. But I'm also very, very, very aware that this is a film, and very little in a film is accidental. Harrison Ford's made-up improvised lines in Star Wars aside. Like I say, I'm aware that little in the film is accidental. Director Steven Spielberg would have signed off on costume design as he signed off on the brilliantly scored music used for that scene and the score overhaul. That scene, though, that dance scene in the dance hall, is quite something to watch when you're listening to the music, because it all very subtly changes from quite well scored to ever so slightly off key. There's a couple of flat notes somewhere used to underline the tensions in the gym between the two groups. It's superbly done, as is the rest of the score. We will have, even if we've only heard the original film soundtrack, which I did for so many years, we have heard the songs in this film many times, even if it's only from that soundtrack. But, and this is a minor thing, but the original stage version has been around for a long time. What I'm trying to say is that the songs in this musical, like its best known tune, America, are wonderful to listen to as individual songs. G Officer Krupke was something of a favourite of mine, and it's nice to see it both in context and listen to it on a record. The songs are great, and like nothing we see today. Point of fact, the composer Leonard Bernstein died in the 90s, and lyricist Stephen Sondheim died a couple of years ago now, not long before the release of this version. They literally don't write them like that anymore. There is, of course, one minor point to make about the music. I think I should point out, partly to try and get a cheap laugh, but here we go. They've made minor changes to the lyrics of I Feel Pretty. The 1961 version of the film uses the line I feel pretty and witty and gay, don't smirk, against the 2001 versions I feel pretty and witty and bright. From the little I can find on Google, that original and bright version was the one used in the original stage musical, was the one used in the original book. But it got changed for the 1961 film. Why? I don't know. But changing it back to I feel pretty and witty and bright seems like a good idea, especially as we know, let's face it, the definition of the word gay has changed over the last 6 decades, the last two generations. It's supposed to be 30 years to a generation. It's changed over those past 2 generations. Moving away from that, there's other things I think that need discussing here. I've not actually seen the stage version. Never have, and possibly will never be able to afford to. And it's been a while since I've seen the 1961 version of the story. I honestly don't remember if the Corey Stoll character, Lieutenant Schrank, is in the original film or the original stage play. I just couldn't tell you if his character's in earlier versions of the story. There's also a scene where Maria and Tony are on a date believe it or not, on a date. They're going for a walk around bits of New York, and they're in a church, and they're promising each other eternal love. It's not a wedding per se. It's not a marriage. It's just a scene that shows us how seriously the pair take their feelings for each other. But again, it's not a scene I recall from the original film, nor do I remember seeing or reading an equivalent scene in Romeo and Juliet, the play that inspired the story. Again, it's been a while since I've seen it. But again, scene and character and the far grittier, less theatrical sets for this version of the story are brilliant. The original film is very theatrical. It's the producers were trying to make it look like a theatrical set. This one doesn't. It's trying to tell you that this story is in the real world. Possibly adds a bit of depth to the colour schemes there. But in any case, it's beautifully done, as are the performances. We have quite a strong ensemble cast here. I don't think I saw a bad actor on the screen last night. I really don't. But Corey Stoll, bless him, caught my eye as Schrank. Having seen him in The Strain and A House of Cards, seeing a familiar face giving a very good performance of a very well written part was incredibly welcome. I actually was thinking at the time he'd probably make a very good Commander Sam Vimes. He's very much got that cynical policeman kind of attitude, very much on the ball. Elgort and Ziegler as the 2 doomed main characters. They were great. They really were. I mean, they're a little... Anson Elgort seems a little young to me, but he does well. He's handsome. He's going to be eye-catching for the ladies, I think, and he does well. Rachel Ziegler, at the film's climax, was genuinely doing some heartbreaking work there. But for me personally, they weren't necessarily the stars of the show. One of them, God bless her, was the incredibly wonderful Rita Moreno as Valentina. In this film, she's the equivalent of Doc in the original film and stage play. Except, of course, those of us who've seen the original film will remember that Rita Moreno was the original Anita. And she does superbly well in this film. She really is... She's quite something to see. They even managed to get her singing a song, which in the original film, she's blessed. She does most of her own singing, but she's dubbed for America, which seems a shame. So she gets a song to herself in this, and it's heartbreaking to watch. The other star was Ariana DeBose as this film's version of Anita, and she was quite simply breathtaking. Now, there is very little more I can tell you about this version of West Side Story, about what I think about this version of West Side Story. Apart from maybe one thing. I think remakes of films can be shaky things to do. You have to be very careful about them. You really do. The George Clooney remake of Solaris. Very good, but it's not quite the same as the original Russian films version from 1971. The 88 remake of 1958's The Blob. I saw it, I enjoyed it, but it does have a terrible reputation for being a badly handled remake. I also know nobody who went anywhere near the 2003 remake of The Italian Job. You might want to think about that if you're Donald Sutherland, you really do. This version of West Side Story, on the other hand, and this may be something to do with the choice of utter film legend that is Steven Spielberg as the director, this version of West Side Story is quite simply breathtaking as DuBose's performances in it and the numbers and the rest of the whole movie. It is damn good. If you're familiar with my rating systems, I've given it 4 stars plus. It is one of only 3 things that I've given that to. Personally, I really think you should see this as soon as you possibly can. You will not be wasting your time. I'll see you when I catch another movie and catch another TV show. Until then, take care, have fun, be good, and if you don't end up seeing this film, well, shame on you.